spandex.
Yeah?
You're not going to talk to me now.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to talk to you.
Yeah, like, right.
From Germany. He's one of the last gold beaters who knows how to actually beat gold the traditional way, and he says in 2 years he'll be actually the last one. So what we're going to show you today is how Kurt's evolved out of this, which is the sign for gold beating. You have a hammer and an arm, and if you wonder why Kurt's, who's doing hot stamping foils today, have a hammer and an arm, this is why, gold beating. That's where they got started. And we'll show you how Herbert does that. Herbert gets sent a couple of grams of gold. I'll pick some up, and you have to come a bit closer so you can actually see, because they're very, very tiny, and this is about 1 gram of gold, each of those little pellets. And in fact, when he gets sent these, he melts them down to a gold alloy, and he adds a bit of silver or platinum or copper, depending on the color of the gold leaf that he wants to have at the end. He says there's over 150 colors, so it's very difficult. And he's got all these special recipes that are all secret, trade secrets, obviously, in order to get the right color. He melts it down to a bar that would look approximately like this. Obviously, this is not gold alloy, but it's silver, and it would weigh around 300 grams. Once he gets this sort of bar, he'll put it through a ringer-like mechanical structure that you put it through and it stretches it. You put it through again, keep stretching until it gets 18 meters long and is this thin. It feels a bit like tin foil, really. It's a bit rough still. And he chops it up into little quarters, puts it into one of these books, or molds as they're called. This one is one made out of goat skin, and it needs to be very, very sturdy in order to withstand the heat and the beating. He wraps these leather bands around it. These could be made out of any kind of leather, really, at this stage. And they'll be beaten by a mechanical hammer. This is the first introduction of machines really happened in the 19th century, and that's still really mostly where it's at for the traditional way, because it's very hard to mechanize the processes. He'll have it beaten down to this size, so that we go from that to that, and that would be 1/170th of a millimeter. It will be chopped and quartered into 4 pieces and then put into the next mold. This one is one made out of a certain type of parchment. And it's getting a bit difficult to handle at this stage already. As I said, it's only 1/170th of a millimeter thick now. It will then be beaten again by the mechanical hammer, and meanwhile Herbert is making sure that it gets beaten evenly by turning and flipping over the little packages under the hammer. It will get to grow to this size, and at that stage it's only 1/900th of a millimeter thick. Thin, thick, you know. It will then be quartered again and put into the last form, which is nowadays made of synthetic paper. And he'll just show you how he would do that, because at that stage obviously he can't pick it up anymore, it will just disintegrate. And he has to blow it and make sure that it sits smack in the middle so it can distribute in all directions evenly. And he does that by using that little piece of cardboard. You have to imagine these are 1,200 sheets of synthetic paper, and he uses 2 of those little packages to put into one of these forms in molds together. So that would be 2,500 sheets that somebody needs to pick up a little piece of gold leaf, put it in there, go to the next page, put it in there, go again. And you do that over for 2,400 times. It is then wrapped by these bands made out of parchment, and it has to be over 100 years old, because if it's not old enough, and he's just showing that it's from 1843, it's actually some English contract, I think. But, you know, who knows? And it needs to be that also it has acquired enough moisture so it doesn't break when he starts beating it. And at this stage, 1/900th of a millimeter thin, you think that's reasonably thin, but really this is only where it gets started, where the real art of gold beating starts. And you can see in the background now in the film what type of application it would be used for in paintings, for example, or statues. Anything you want to gild, you use gold leaf. But just as a side. So we'll show you the different hammers that Herbert will use for beating the gold. This is the small hammer, 1.5 kilograms. He'll use that for 5 minutes or 432 hits. Then the 7 kilogram hammer, it already gets a bit bigger because obviously the gold has spread. He uses that for 40 minutes. And 2,816 hits. That's the second 7 kilogram hammer. It's a bit more rounded at the edge. And he'll use that for 10 minutes. Then we get bigger again, and this is the 9 kilogram hammer. And that he uses for 10 minutes and 564 hits. Last, this is the best one of them all. This is the 12 kilogram hammer. You know, try and pick it up. And let me just add, he uses that for at least an hour. At least an hour, but up to 3.5 hours. At 2,412 hits an hour. the block is made out of marble, but he would actually have a certain type of block at home where he really uses a type of stone that you can't get in Australia.
Are you serious?
But for demonstration purposes, this will do. It's Duraline, I think, is the proper translation. We'll just show you how he will then go about beating the gold.
Yeah, you thought you were strong.
Yes, don't try that at home on your marble bench top. I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that he's using both hands at the same time throughout the whole beating process. And he has never beaten himself more than once on all of these 4 fingers. That was 36 years ago. He says your body actually protects you from getting your fingers anywhere near the hammer at some stage. It is important to notice that he keeps turning 3 times the package in one direction, then flips it over, swaps hands, and does the same thing again. And it does bounce, yes. But he says the importance is not so much the muscle that is in your upper arm, but the muscle that is in your wrist, which actually controls where the hammer's going. Because, you know, bouncing is all good and well, and I tried it with a little one. It just goes bouncing that way because I don't have the strength in my hand, in my wrist. So after 2.5 days and 32 processes, we end up with a product that is very, very thin, and he has used by that time at least 6,836 hits. Obviously, if he beats the gold, depending on the density and the quality of the gold, a little bit longer, and not just 1 hour with a heavy hammer, but 3 hours, that will multiply. These are then the sheets of gold leaf that he has at the end, and it's so delicate you can't touch it anymore without it actually disintegrating. So it's really just blown into place everywhere it goes. And at this stage, it's 1/10,000th of a millimeter thin, 1/10,000th of a millimeter, or 0.5 micron. So if you put 10,000 of those sheets on top of each other, compress the air out, you get 1 millimeter of gold. And he just told me, actually, if you wanted to gild a horse statue and a rider, you just need, or you used to need in the old days, 10 grams of gold. And nowadays you need the big amount of 20 grams of gold to get a life-size statue of rider and horse gilded. And I think that's all we have for you today. So remember, when you see curds and you wonder about the hammer and hot stamping files, it all makes sense now. This is where they got started. And feel free to just go around the hut and see what they're doing now. Thank you. Thank you, Herbert.
Yeah, that's what it's really that. So the house in here and down Friday night, the other night.
Look what they do now with the machine.
Okay, no problem.
Can't see why not. Big bloody machine, huh? Big beast. Yeah, there's one down at Coleman's, isn't there?
That means better productivity in every run.
I saw a couple of people said to me, is it alright if you film, but hey? Hey, I'll get one for the kids. Put their TV on it, you know? Put the TV in there. We've got a couple of these back at the office too.
Good. I always go that way. But I had an apple to them at the same time. I wouldn't have done one
Presidents